Senator Amaya, speaking for the first time in the session. Judges PO, give me any indication that you're ready. Senators, we have gathered here today to discuss law enforcement's ability to search cell phones. I suggest that we vote in affirmation of this bill for the following reasons. The first being that legislation is the only way that we will be able to ban encryption, and the second being that encryption gives terrorists a significant advantage. Tech companies such as Apple and Google, whose software houses roughly 97% of the world's cell phones, have now re-engineered their software with something called full disk encryption. Full disk encryption ensures that a company can no longer unlock their own products. This new idea makes sure that companies will no longer comply with judges' orders to unlock password-protected phones simply because they can't. This takes the law away from the judges and puts it back in the hands of corporations. According to Darren Hayes, who is a professor of computer science forensics at Pace University, tech companies will never voluntarily make changes to help the government. The only way to alter the way tech companies produce is through legislation. My second point is that encryption gives terrorists a significant advantage. With encryption, the law has no idea what did or did not happen before a criminal-induced attack. According to Cyrus Vance Jr., the Manhattan District Attorney Office documented how their cyber lab was unable to execute search warrants for 125 iPhones because the perpetrators of murder, assault, and identity theft used devices that even Apple could not unlock. Small-scale criminals are not the only ones who use encryption to their advantage. For example, signs of communications with ISIS is evident in the San Bernardino attacks, but due to encryption, police are unable to find out more. Another example is the Garland, Texas attacks. In the Garland, Texas attacks, one of the terrorists exchanged 109 messages with an overseas terrorist, but due to encryption, police were unable to find out more. Senators, I strongly advise you to vote in affirmation of this bill for these reasons. Thank you, and I'm now open to questions.
Okay, that was 2 minutes 32 seconds. Questions? Senator Famoli?
Senator, don't you believe that privacy is also an important part?
Yes, privacy is an important part, but not the privacy of terrorists. Why should we risk ourselves? Why should we risk our safety just so that only we can be protected ourselves?
But don't you think everyone's privacy will be invaded because we don't know who are terrorists unless we get into those phones?
The thing with this bill is you need a search warrant to go into somebody else's phone. You need a search warrant, you need a reason to for the government to actually go into your phone.
In 2015, only 30 Americans died because of terrorism. Isn't hacking nowadays a much bigger problem to Americans than terrorism?
I'm sorry, Senator, could you repeat the question?
Terrorism in 2015 only killed 30 Americans, yet hacking is much more popular. Isn't hacking a more genuine concern than terrorism?
Hacking may be a more genuine concern than terrorism, but as we see, 2 years ago, before this full disk encryption, there was no problem with hackers or terrorists because we were more safe because this encryption was taken down and the government was able to go into to terrorist phones and find out the problems.
Don't you think that it breaks an amendment and the Constitution, and it breaks the fact that we can have a little bit of privacy?
If you're referring to the Fourth Amendment, it specifically states that you need a search warrant to go into people's privacy, their phones, which this bill does ensure.
All right, thank you, Senator.